Hey all, and welcome to Geek Freaks. I am Frank, and today we're going to be doing a solo episode. It's a busy weekend for us, and I'm still laid up with a bit of an injury. I want to give you a little bit of a catch-up of what's been going on. So, first of all, we have LA Comic-Con this week. We have Squeaks going down there with some friends from the network, and he's going to be covering the event. So when he comes back, we'll be discussing that. Last week, we were at Crocker Con. The audio from that convention fell through, unfortunately. So we're doing this instead. Things happen, guys. That's how conventions work. That's okay. Next up, I had a knee injury. So the tendons in the front of my knee, they went out on me, and here we are. So I'm on the mend. I'm already doing significantly better than I was just about a week ago. But I've been slow. I haven't been able to do headlines or things like that. So that's the state of things around Geek Freaks. We're chugging along, but what's been one hell of a week. So let's go ahead and get started with a couple things. The new Mandalorian and Grogu trailer. This is the first official trailer that came out. We have some news about Spider-Man casting. We got a brand new trailer for a new Wolverine video game. And we're going to discuss the finale for Alien Earth Season 1, and it's very much a Season 1. And Gen V's the premiere for Season 2. So let's get underway. First off, let's get a reaction for that Marvel's Wolverine game. This is going to be done by Insomniac. They're the folks that did the Spider-Man game that currently do the Spider-Man game for PlayStation, so you can expect that same quality. The key difference with this game over that one is while that game I would say is a traversal-based game, it's very wide open world. You could do anything you want. I would say that the framework sits on top of like a Grand Theft Auto size of an open world. This one is actually much closer to God of War, the 2018 version. So it's a grand world, but it's very linear, and the stages are linear, and the combat is visceral and quick time finishers. So you're gonna feel like you're playing a God of War-esque game. It's absolutely rated M. We're seeing some brutal actions out of Logan, who's gonna be played by the voice actor who plays Spartacus and stuff like that. That's Liam McTree. He also you probably recognize him most as Aquaman in the DC animated movies they've been doing at the end of the DCEU, which I think was probably the strength of the DCEU. But he's going to do a great job. He's got that dark, gruff voice that we expect out of this. A couple of the things that we saw at this, we saw Omega Red as a big menacing villain. And some of the questions that are going out there is like, how are you going to be playing an essentially immortal character, someone with a big healing factor like Wolverine? Well, Omega Red has the ability to slow down healing factor. And if he's helping spread that, then the people working for him will also have that ability too. So we're going to have that at play. We also have Mystique in the mix. And Mystique can be working with us and against us. She's definitely on both fronts. And she's going to add some mistrust in the storyline. So you're not sure if you're fighting somebody that's on your side or not. Mystique will throw a wrench in the whole thing. We also see a Sentinel, and it's going to be a Sentinel prototype, but we have scale going against us. So while, yes, on face value, Wolverine is hard to imagine playing as Wolverine in some sense because, yeah, I'll just heal through it. Like I've seen that man survive being all but obliterated. There are definitely things that can slow him down, and they're setting this game up to feel like every decision is going to be impactful. Our locations are so cool. So first off, we're going to be in the Canadian wilderness, and I was hoping for that. I read a novel about Wolverine when I was a kid, and it all took place in the Canadian wilderness, and I've always wanted to just see him on a motorcycle going around, the outback area of Canada. We're going to be there. It's also going to be on the neon streets of Tokyo, so bringing us back to Omega Red and stuff like that. That's where Tokyo is going to be playing in place. And then Madripoor, a location that the MCU has been embracing a lot lately, in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, things like that. It seems to be MCU's stand-in for a lawless city. So we're going to see a lot of crime and stuff like that in there. It's something that Marvel's really trying to embrace. As a fictional place, they could totally do that. It's perfect. Obviously, one of the main factors of this entire thing is how does combat feel? You do have that Spider-Man kinetic and acrobatic nature, but there's going to be much more impactful hits like we do see in a God of War. And there's going to be an emphasis on this dismemberment of people because of the brutal nature. It's a very M-rated game. And also berserker style bursts suggesting that there's some sort of build and release, because one of the maybe lesser thought of abilities of Logan, first off, his smell, which will be a scent thing he can probably turn on here and there. We've seen some from leaked footage that he's able to turn on a scent to be able to see things through that. But also, he has Berserker mode, so he's able to like go into another gear, very anime-esque. And I think you're going to be building up that Berserker mode, unleashing it for, an intense about abilities or whatever, and getting that aggression out on people that will be in your way. It's going to be less aerial and flowy, and much more about pushing and pulling on your healing factor and the brutality of your claws ripping through people. It'll be pretty nice. This is going to be a global thriller, as we talked about. It's going to be jumping around everywhere. He's going to be chasing down some past foes and unburying some bodies he's probably buried in the past to try to get some answers. And the allies and enemies are going to blur. We're going to see this mix of characters that, again, Omega Red has been on his side before, but is also very much an enemy. Mystique, same thing. I think we're going to see a lot of these people playing in and out. And I hope we get little teasers for the wider scope of the X-Men, and possibly setting up future games where, like, I would like to see a trilogy out of this, essentially, where Cyclops comes in play later on or something like that. I think we could really set that up. This game has been teased a long time ago. We've been waiting for something. This is the first concrete thing that we've had, and most importantly is a date. Now, it's set for fall 2026. It's a window. It's not an exact date, and nowadays we don't know if you necessarily want an exact date out of a video game, as those tend to be moved, but that is something. It's going to be more than just Spider-Man without claws. This is going to be a whole new thing out of Insomniac, a company that I think has served us pretty well. Even in their flops, there has been some really good work in there. I don't necessarily want to say that they're infallible, but I trust them with this. And I would love to hear from you guys as we go through everything else too. Make sure you guys let us know what you guys think about this on our social medias, Threads, X, Instagram, and alike. And if you're a PS5 owner, you have a game coming your way that you must buy. I know I'll be buying it myself. It looks really good. Moving forward, let's stick with the world of Marvel. And where we talk about Marvin Jones III, he joined Spider-Man Brand New Day as Tombstone. So Marvin Jones III, he's very good at playing comic book villains. He's the villain on Black Lightning, a part of the Arrowverse, and he's actually played Tombstone before as a voice actor, so he knows his character well. And then let's look at Tombstone himself. He first appeared in Web of Spider-Man 36 back in 1988. He was created by Gary Conway and artist Alex Savuk of classic comic book writers and creators. He's gone toe-to-toe with Spider-Man. He's tangled with Daredevil. He's very much, that Kingpin-esque kind of character, the street-level villain that you're always afraid of. His real name is Lonnie Lincoln, which I've always really loved that, Lonnie Thompson Lincoln. And he's a criminal mastermind. He's got superhuman strength and stamina, durability, and reflexes. He's most recognizable as looking like a walking zombie. He's like a mix of zombie and Frankenstein. I really do like his portrayal in the Spider-Man games because he's a man looking for redemption and trying to better his life. That's always been a fun aspect of some of the ground level superheroes or villains, of Marvel and DC. But this is going to be a good addition. This is a character we always compare it to Loki, right? A villain that could stick around for a lot of different things. And Lonnie just being in existence on the streets is going to be good. And Marvin, who knows how to be that kind of character, this presence when he sits in a room, he does take up a lot of the screen in that way, right? When you're watching a scene that has Marvin sitting in it, you're like, man, that guy, he's got a good vibe about him, right? He's got a good villain vibe about him. And that's what we're looking forward to this character. We're going to be watching this movie July 31st, 2026. 2026, folks. What a year for films. 2027 is even better. But I mean, we've got some good movies coming up, and I'm happy to see Lonnie joining the team. Now, I still think that Mr. Negative is going to be the ultimate bad guy in this. We have so many players on the field, including the Hulk, Punisher. It's going to be a stacked deck. But there's something about, and I was worried that, if we add too many people, are we going to be getting that No Way Home vibe again? It's almost like a fan servicey, throw everything at the wall thing. But some of these characters that we're seeing added to this, if we get, Mr. Negative, we have Tombstone. These are very ground level characters. Punisher himself is very ground level. I think the most powerful and outlandish that we're seeing right now is going to be Hulk. But we've seen Hulk of recent years. He's not the Hulk that's, a menace. It's Bruce Banner. It's more Bruce Banner than Hulk. So I have a feeling that this is definitely going to stick to the promise of a grounded story that brings Spider-Man back to Earth. And hopefully we get to see that black suit. That's something that, comes around in Secret Wars for the comic books. So I'd like to see that as well for our MCU as well. And let's shift over to Star Wars. The Mandalorian and Grogu trailer was released. This is the first full-length trailer, and we had a poster for it as well. It's just so nice to see the progression of this and how they're changing the vibe of Mandalorian. When The Mandalorian first came out, I pitched it to my folks who don't really watch Star Wars as it's a Western. It's Star Wars, sure, but it doesn't feel like you're watching a Star Wars movie. It feels like you're watching a Western. And it is very much that way. And even the font that you'd see was very reminiscent of like Star Wars meets the good, the bad, and the ugly. Well, when you see this poster and when you get these vibes from the new one, from the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, which will be out in theaters May 22nd, the vibe is old adventurers, Rini Tintin, maybe even, Indiana Jones. I plan on planet hopping and coming across new friends and old foes and monsters and odysseys and all kinds of fun stuff. And it's really a beautiful poster. Some of the old school artwork that used to ignite the imagination. If you guys ever played old school Nintendo games, boy, the box art, you'd have to live on that box art because you'd see those pixels coming together and you're like, I promise you it's that box art. But you just have to use a lot of imagination to connect those dots, the few dots that were actually on the screen. And that's kind of what we have here too. It's just beautiful imagery we got going on. In the trailer itself, we see Din Djarin and Grogu out on their adventures, and they go to get a contract from Sigourney Weaver, who seems to be their contact, who's very no nonsense in the best way that Sigourney Weaver is. And they're off on their mission. We get a little bit of Jabba the Hutt's son, Rada the Hutt. We see him in a fighting pit and is very much more impressive than his dad. This is what I'm afraid of, not Jabba the Hutt. This one's the one that's got me actually fearing him. And he's played by Jeremy Allen White from The Bear. So that, way to go. That's going to be such cool voice acting. And then we also see Razor Crest is returning, which is a ship. This is obviously a new version of it, but they've been rocking the Naboo fighter for a while there. But the Razor Crest, that's what you need, man. It's just so iconic to The Mandalorian, that first season. It's so good. And we also have Zeb running around doing his thing from Rebels. He's part of the team now, and he's active. And it's what's nice when you have the movie budget for this thing. So you're able to show more Zeb. In the show, he's all CGI. So you have to be sparing where you could show your CGI. And it looks like they're going all out on this one, including this incredible scene where they bomb an AT-AT walker. There's 3 of them walking along the cliffside. They bomb one of them and it just comes down the side. It's like, that's going to be gorgeous. And you know what? I'm so excited to watch that in IMAX. It has a tagline, forged for IMAX, harkening back to when they were forging the armor in season 1. And I am absolutely watching this bad boy in IMAX. There's no doubt. Release date is set for May 22nd, 2026. I will 100% be there. This is going to be the first Star Wars movie in theaters since 2019. Had a little bit of a drought there, which we needed. I'm not saying we didn't need, but man, heck of a drought. That's pretty crazy. Let's shift into some reviews. We're going to be talking about Alien Earth, season 1 and that finale. So first off, this season finale really brought the season into focus, right? We've been building tension while we've been on this island with an aliens walking around and a couple of them loose. We've got a xenomorph that's loose, one that was made from Wendy's brother's lung. And so we were a little bit concerned, what's going on with this thing? And I got to say, some of the pros about this series so far, the season so far, very tactile, the tech. It feels like when they kind of bring back an old Star Wars, for example, or even the original Alien movies, where to get things to operate, you use clicks and buttons. And there's something about that where it feels like you could be a part of this lived in space. And even the quiet scenes feel so like heavy. Like you could almost feel the xenomorph breathing or just like the wheels of every mind turning in the room at once. It's beautiful cinematography when they can do that. Beautiful filming when they can do that. The characters make, these really messy choices when they're under pressure. It keeps the story feeling human, even though you have like a lot of synths walking around. And there's more synths in this than I think we've seen in any other version of Alien. There's this curiosity going on, control over the unknown, and some exploration into like what will be the future of humanity. It all tied up into this new season. Some of the breakout elements for me were the eyeball, alien entity, this creepy little dude who seems to be very smart, and I was expecting more out of, if I'm being honest. I think that they kind of are saving him for season 2. They could have used him now. You led too much into it. They really needed to show more out of him. But he's a very good visual. His representation with the sheep and now his new host. Holy cow. I cannot wait to see what comes out of the eyeball alien next. Once it enters that picture, it steals the scenes. It's crazy. It's a threat, and it might be the most intelligent thing on the island. The performances really sold the show too. Some of the leads really were able to push it forward. I would say that Wendy herself, when she's kind of just staring off, you could see her like putting it together in her mind in a way that felt like it was actually earned and not just somebody telling the actor like, just look off to the side. No, it actually felt like, like you saw those wheels turning again, and I really appreciate sometimes when you could have a show give something the moment to breathe. And that comes from, the Fargo roots that this whole show's from. And with Noah is the ability to let characters be characters and not force action upon them and let them make their choices, whether that be right or wrong. And then you live with it after that. Fargo's so good about that, especially that last season. I'm a huge proponent for you guys watching Fargo, so please check that out. Performance I thought really needed to be shined is with Timothy Olyphant. He's a synth, and he's an old school kind of synth, right? And there's this thing where like the temperature will rise in the room without anybody raising their voices, except for the boy genius. He's a pain in the ass. But I really liked how when you saw like the tension rise, the anger rise, that you still had Timothy Olyphant that was like smooth talking and walk right through it. And really, I think his eerie calmness elevated his character. You knew that his character was somehow more in the know than you, was somehow smarter than you, but was also desperate and at the edge. And that combination in a character is so hard to portray. Timothy Olyphant is one of my favorite actors, I gotta say. I enjoy watching his interviews so much because he always plays such a badass, hard character in so many projects, except for Santa Clarita Diet. That seems to be the one where they let him be himself. But when he's doing these interviews, or whenever you hear about in-person stories from him, holy cow, the guy's a cut up. He's a fun dude. But yeah, pacing is one of the places where this thing wobbles. A few episodes really hold back some information longer than they needed to in a situation where I get it, guys. I get that there's supposed to be a mystery box that we're slowly unpeeling the doors on to kind of reveal what's inside. But, I felt like a kid that was anxious at Christmas, like, come on, I don't want to wait for Aunt to open hers. I want to get in there, And so sometimes the mystery, which was the show's identity, took a little bit of a while to get to it, There are moments where you're withholding these feelings that made it like coy instead of purposeful. It was like, you never know. And then cut to black. It's like, I do need to know though. Like at some point you guys got to get me to tune in next week. And I don't know if it wasn't for the fact that I was writing reviews for every episode, if I would be tuning in exactly on a Tuesday night to watch this every week, I might have just binged it all. It was getting to that point. And that does lean back on Fargo for sure, but it's something that should be addressed as a whole. The finale, talking about the finale, it really set the table well. We knew what was going on. We knew the stakes. We knew our loyalties were starting to snap. The core idea of alien logic over this control, it made sense. But my God, it just cuts off. It's so frankly disappointing how fast it cuts off. There's a difference between cliffhanger and incomplete. Cliffhanger gives us enough to be satisfied on. And I can't wait for the next course. I can't wait for dessert. I can't wait for the next. But incomplete is, I didn't get my entree. I got the salad. I got some mashed potatoes. I didn't get any steak with this thing. And that's what this felt like. To the point where we even have like the xenomorph standing on the side of the cage, who did do some cool combat, sure. But like, we have all our villains in one cage. Go at it, bro. And instead, Wendy just cuts it off with, now we rule. Which is not within Wendy's character in any way. So you really are setting up a character to be different than how she was in this entire season. She's losing all empathy. And I understand this evolution that's happening. Like that's a big part of her character, or a big part of the story is the evolution of these new synths. I want to call them synths. They have human memory paths, but let's be honest, they're synths. But yeah, it's just kind of like, damn, what disappointing ending to this thing. or the lack thereof. What a disappointing cut to credits is what I really feel like doing it. It was a sad last beat. It just did not feel very complete at all. That does not erase how well the finale did, though. I mean, it got a lot of things right. The escalation felt very real. The themes really land. You could see the outline for what was like a really bold chapter for them. But the need for just one more beat just kind of, it just left that bad taste in your mouth, and you couldn't really go much farther than that. It's not will they, won't they, or what's next. It's just like, well, shit, give me 10 minutes and I could see the end of this thing and I'd be just fine. I will say, though, overall, just cinematography wise, the crafting, I think Alien Earth is totally worth your time. I got a lot of negative reactions from some of the reviews that I put out there saying that, oh, this is cinematography for idiots or smooth brains, or this is, and I could see where you're coming from, right? Like this is one of those things where you know all the ingredients are very good, they're just not mixing right. We talked about this before on Challenge Accepted, where it's like everything they're doing is proper, they're just not putting them in the right order to make it look right. Or some people said, oh, the script's written by ChatGPT. It feels like it's written by ChatGPT. And I mean, I don't see that. Yes, there are a lot of sense on here. Doesn't mean any of them wrote the damn thing. I know Noah Hawley. This feels like Noah Hawley to me. I see people who are saying that I don't think are familiar with his work and understand that like this is how he writes. Like if you watch the Fargos, they're very similar to this. He's like a mystery writer. The problem is when you try to adapt Noah Hawley to Alien, it doesn't bind super well. We were all praising this for so long. It's just that finale. So I think with some, intrepidation, season 2, I have a lot of faith in, because I have a faith that he's going to land this. Now, I haven't seen him do a what is that called? Anthology, like where it's going to be a new thing next season. This will be the first of the kind that I see of his, but I'm looking forward to it. I trust his work, and I trust these performers. I think we've got a lot of good places to start from. Obviously, season 2 is going to be much more informed than season 1 was. We know exactly what's going on with season 2, with all of our characters, where they're at, where they stand mentally. And it'll be interesting to see if they can land this, if they could really kind of right the ship. Because currently it feels like the plane just went off the edge of the cliff and we're waiting for the engines to kick in and for it to start speeding off. So we'll see how that shakes out. But totally worth your time, guys. Please let me know what you guys thought about Alien Earth. I thought it was a valiant effort. Yeah. All right, and the last thing we're going to be doing today is reviewing the premiere for Gen V Season 2. We got 3 episodes out of this, and it's a bold but messy return for Gen V. One of the things that we have to deal with is the fact that Chance is no longer with us. Chance Perdomo sadly had a death, but they play it off screen as if he did it during a revolt from the prison. So I thought it was a good way of kind of honoring the character, like this is something his character would do. And they use his dad character, somebody who I thought was kind of forgettable. They brought him onto Godolkin so he could be helping out with the others. It's I think, a pretty good way to handle things. Some of the big swings this show's setting up so far with Godolkin and the shifting things is we have a new Dean, Dean Cypher. He's instantly diabolical and like this weird magnetism about him. I really like the actor. There's a thing where I'm almost like, could he be a good guy in some weird way? But his verbiage, the way he's almost like he's absolutely on Homelander's side. He's definitely Vought, in this case, then a fascist. But could he be working from the inside? What does Cypher's power? What does Cypher mean? With a name like Cypher, you imagine that his powers are going to be similar to that. What is that? He's steering the campus towards total militarization and smiling at the cameras while he does it. Like he knows his job, right? It's that mix of social media. That's so weird how prominent that is in this show, but very apt. It's that mix of social media and militarization. And that's something that we've seen a lot through both The Boys and through Gen V, of course. So seeing him set this up is a little bit odd. The show leans in on that propaganda and the cultural war optics. It's got that terrible sense of humor that is all too familiar to us. And then it even has that flashback to the 60s lab set, setting the tone for like where Godolkin got the name from, and the fact that these old experiments are what fueled this facility, studio, college. Doing a solo podcast, guys, sometimes you lose your words. And it happened back in the 60s with Godolkin himself, but it's also where we get the students that we have today. So it's not like it's ever gone away. They've always been doing things out in the forest. Episode 2 and 3, I think, really sharpened the arc. Episode 1 is kind of introducing everybody, but episode 2 and 3 really sharpened things up. We knew what we were going for. Project Odessa. We had to figure out what is this mystery? What is Project Odessa? We got a little bit of a brief little cameo from Starlight. You know, we get the boys mentions here and there, right? It's a tied universe. We got a lot of Homelander, a cameo from Homelander in the last one too. It's just fun. The boys are in the story without hijacking it. It's pretty good. But the key with Starlight showing up is that the Starlighters, her followers, who are essentially the anti-fascists, or oh boy, that's Antifa, anti-fascist. Starlighters are Antifa. They're fighting back against all this, of course, and they're being persecuted by those who, follow everything, and it's dangerous. I think all of our characters are in the right place right now. They're really starting to shine. So let's go through them. We have Marie, who's now, playing by the rules essentially to get on the campus where she is safest and actually able to really search what this Project Odessa is. She's still very defiant, but she's also has this magnetism about her where people are wanting to watch what she can do and stuff like that. She has an ability that is clearly very powerful, maybe even more powerful than she understands. And I think that's part of Cypher's plans with this school and its militarization and the intense training is trying to bring more out of Maria than she knows about. And she's searching for her sister, so she's not going to stop anytime soon. Emma, Lizzie Broadway's character, we're starting to see some of the old troubling things, how she used to be able to shrink and grow from binging and purging. And we're starting to see some of that return a little bit. But I do appreciate her relationship with Polarity, which is the dad of Chance in the story. And I thought that was a really cool way to bring the character in. And I think that she is probably the most, quote, hero of them, and also extremely flawed and sees the flaws in herself and cannot help but, express those flaws to others. And just, she struggles so much, and you just really want the best for her. We have Kate, who was in, you thought like, oh, wait, is she actually a nice person all of a sudden this season? She was injured. She fully embraces being a bad person now. So now we could all not like Kate together. There's something about Kate where it's like, can she still be redeemed? I don't know. She saw that they left her for dead. And was it the right choice? I actually think it was. Like, Kate was a liability to them. I think they had to leave her for dead. But was it, it's gonna hurt them in the long run, obviously. Then we have Jordan. Their character is definitely more elevated than the first season, and leaning on the complexity of relationships and the bi-gender nature of the character, leaning in on that as well, and also being the number one, being the ranked number one of Godolkin, puts all kinds of new pressures on you, something that I don't think Jordan ever had to worry about before, but now they do. The relationship with Marie is very complicated because, yes, they love Marie, but does Marie love them and understand the kind of risks that Jordan goes through? Marie's willing to throw everything at the sun because she's just going for her sister, but Jordan is trying to balance safety and investigation and everything all at once. I don't think that Marie understands the stake that Jordan's going through. It's very interesting and played so well by both London Thor and Derek Liu. Two characters playing one, and still you feel they're actually that character. I think that's very tricky to do. Jordan, I think, is going to be one of the highlights of the season. A person I'm not super excited about is Sam. I didn't care for him in the first season. I thought that he was too much of a loose cannon. I feel like he's just, in this season, the cannon's getting looser, boys. So watching Sam in this season is going to be tricky. I think he is going to eventually blow up, and he's too strong to not be checked. But it'll be interesting to see where this goes. And I think we're setting up a season where that tension again is going to rise and be a nuisance, and eventually we'll have to see. I think overall it's going to be a good season. What kind of drags so far is that in these first 3 episodes, we have these little info dumps that they keep doing, these scenes that over-explain the mystery, which is a little bit of like a whiplash thing, right? We are trying to balance grief and romance and all these mechanics going on with all these different abilities that people have and the rules of the school. You have to do that info dump, but it is a bit strong. So I think with, episode 4 going forward, it'll be a little bit smoother. We won't have to feel those bumps as hard as everybody kind of returns back to norm. I think that honestly, frankly, the distance between season 1 and season 2 might be the problem there too. It seems so long since we've been in this Gen V world. And I believe Prime, from their perspective, is like, well, you had The Boys in between there. Yeah, but The Boys doesn't reference Gen V enough. Gen V references The Boys to where you know what's going on over there. Oh, all of a sudden now Starlighter's on the run, but it doesn't reference back as much. So overall, it's a good start. It was not a great start. I would say it's a solid 7 out of 10 for me. But, you know, I'll be doing a review every week on the website. Make sure you guys check that out for more. And it should be a good journey with you. All right, everybody, let's take a look at the network and how things are going across the network. We've got a lot of busy Geek Freaks Network people. First off, over at Challenge Accepted, we've been reviewing every episode of Peacemaker. I've been having people come on and join me for that one. We're also having a lot of guests bring on their favorite movies to discuss. The last episode, though, is the beginning of us building our Hall of Fame. We always reference that at the end of the episodes. And now we're finally getting it on paper. Here's our Hall of Fame. And we discuss some of our favorite movies that we reviewed so far over at Challenge Accepted. Fandom Portals has been hard at work. Just covered the 2014 movie Chef. I had seen a little bit of it. It's got Jon Favreau. I'm a big Jon Favreau fan, but I hadn't seen this movie specifically. Hard to say you're a big Jon Favreau fan. You haven't seen his biggest movie, but here it is. And based off of Aaron and Brasher's discussion, I have got to see this thing. So check that out, guys. They're talking about Chef over there. Before that was Zombieland, which is such a fun flick to get on. Distance Nerding is also going to LACC, and James from Distance Nerding and Jonathan from us were at Crocker Con, so they're discussing that a little bit. But they're going to go to LACC, so if you guys want two perspectives of LA Comic Con, this is a good place to hang out, is over at Distance Nerding. Again, they do their show live on YouTube, which is a really fun aspect for their show. It's a good one. Over at Anime Plus, they're going to be talking about everything coming out for the rest of the year, kind of planning out your anime viewing habits. So if you're trying to figure out what to watch next, there's a good place. Disney Moms has an episode coming out soon. It's about the Cheetah Girls. There's a show or a movie that I had not watched, but it is in the bucket coming soon. I would say it'll be out probably this upcoming week. And Outlast Podcast is back. We're talking season 49 of Survivor, and we're off to a very good season. We know some things different this season than before, as season 50 cast has already been revealed. So there's kind of this aspect of seeing how people earn their spots in 50. It's a very different version of Outlast Podcast. And we've also changed the format a little bit up. I'm wondering if people will notice it, but we are leaning more into conversational and less recappy. So if you're unfamiliar with Outlast Podcast, I think this might be your best time to join. Go check it out over there, guys, if you want to talk more about Survivor. All right, everybody, I really appreciate you hanging out with me on this episode of Geek Freaks. I know it's so wacky and different when it's just a solo episode, and I've been talking for 33 minutes straight. So clearly I could use a drink of coffee after this. I appreciate you guys hanging out with us, and we'll have a normal episode for you next week. All right, everybody, have yourself a great weekend. Bye.